pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I just want everyone to know that Councilor Valancourt and Town Manager Eileen Cabanel are excused from this meeting. And I'll do my announcements. Thursday, June 11th, there will be a regular town council meeting here in the Matthew Thornton Room. And Thursday, June 25th, in the Matthew Thornton Room, again, another regular council meeting. Paul?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Parks and Rec Department will be hosting a community blood drive at Wasserman Park on Saturday, June 6th from 9 to 2. Blood donors are urgently needed. To schedule an appointment, please call Parks and Rec at 882-1046. Dog licenses were due April 30th. Please come to the town clerk's office as soon as possible to renew your dog's license if you have not done so already. Fines will begin starting in a couple of weeks. Transfer station will open extended hours on Thursdays from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. July 2015 property tax bills have been issued and are due July 1st. Property owners who have not received their tax bills, please contact the tax collector's office at 424-3651 to arrange for printing of a duplicate bill, or you can go on the website merrimacknh.gov and pull your tax bill up electronically. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, prior to starting the Kinder Morgan section, I just wanted to make a personal comment. Personally, I will take responsibility. I think I've been too liberal in allowing the comments section to become more of, by rules, it's supposed to be just comments. It has turned into a question and answer kind of thing. So I just want to be able to make, and this would be true for even other comments about any other thing that happens to be on the agenda. So I just want to let people know that we're going to listen. If there are answers that need to be provided, then either I will answer it to the best of my knowledge, or we will say we will get back to you with the information if we don't know it, okay? So I just want everyone to know that, okay? In terms of and I'd also like to integrate, I think it's probably time, I used to separate the Kinder Morgan comments from the rest of the comments. I think we can do it all together now. I think it's just, we'll just open it up for comments. If it has to do with Kinder Morgan or any other agenda item, it can be done all at once, okay? Okay, why don't we deal with the Kinder Morgan? There are several things I just want to have people updated about. We did receive a letter from Senator Ayotte, and basically what she said, and this has been put on the website, I believe, already, right, Paul? That she is asking the members of the New Hampshire delegation, basically sending a letter to FERC asking that it consider the issues raised by local residents and municipalities while it conducts its review of Kinder Morgan application. I believe Kinder Morgan and regulators must give residents ample opportunity to voice their concerns as the proposed project undergoes required federal and state reviews. So basically it was a just pay attention, but not giving a personal opinion one way or another. Second thing is there was a question that had been brought up previously about the number of affected residences. And we did compile, and that's in the backup, with citizens as well as verifying information. We did come out with a total number of individuals who should be notified by Kinder Morgan property owners, and it came out to 152, which is very different from the 61. Now what we've done is we've asked the attorney to let us know how we should proceed with that correction of information. Okay, as soon as we receive guidance from her, we'll let you know what happens. Of course, Pan Am Railroad and Eversource are also two properties, so I wonder if they've quoted. We've been told Eversource hasn't even been notified yet, so we'll see what happens with that. The third thing is HB 572. This is a bill that has already passed the House and is presently in committee for the Senate. It is a bill that has to do with eminent domain, and hopefully I'll summarize it. Anyone else can correct me if I'm wrong. But basically saying if any portion of a property is taken over by eminent domain, they have to, whoever that is, whether it be the pipeline or anyone, has to be able to, if the residence chooses it, buy the whole property, including all of the structures. Okay, so I would recommend that citizens write their senators and encourage them to pass that bill. Okay, in terms of the council actions, the really only outstanding one, which I've already dealt with, has to do with work with property owners to develop a list of who has been notified of the projects and requests for surveys. So now that we have the total list, we can start looking at that. Okay. Okay, is there anything that I might have missed right now? Okay. So what I'm going to do, let me double check. Tom, did you have a statement you wanted to?
Well, I was going to do that. I was going to do that during the consideration of the minutes.
Okay, that's very good. I'll wait on that then. Okay, so now I'm going to open it up for comments from the press and public for anyone, for anything. Are there any comments? Seeing, no?
Hi, Deborah Huffman, 60 Amherst Road. I noticed in the packet there is the response from Kinder Morgan about the survey requirements.
Thank you. Thank you. I will address that right now.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me. I didn't have it on my list, but it's in the packet. Okay. The town had, we had suggested, just to be able to refresh for everyone, we had suggested an agreement. Kinder Morgan wrote back and said, no, we want this. We wrote back and said, well, we want this. And our latest rendition, response from Kinder Morgan, having to do with the access agreement regarding town-owned land, the Horse Hill Nature Preserve and such. There were two changes that were recommended by Kinder Morgan, which were different from their previous changes. One of them had to do with really just more description in terms of the characterization of the land. Our attorney did not have a problem with that first one because it just is more specifics related to the land. The second one she had a major problem with. The town shall receive and have a reasonable opportunity, and what we said is to review and comment upon any report or other documentation of the results of Tennessee Gas pipeline activities under the agreement prior to submission to the FERC. And they're saying they don't want to submit it prior to the FERC. And our attorney has strongly advised us to stick with our guns. So that's where it stands right now. Okay. So the first one we're going to agree with. The second one, no. We want that language. Okay. Any other comments?
Gina Rosati, 15 Dunbarton. I know I sound like a broken record, but I just keep going back to whether or not you're still sticking with your guns on no alternate route.
We are against the pipeline going through Merrimack.
Okay, but Amherst is also against the pipeline going through Amherst, but they have an alternate route. So my question is, are you going to go with an alternate route? Or
we are against the pipeline going through Merrimack. We're not talking about any alternate routes.
Okay. And my other question is, in the minutes for Amherst for the April 28th meeting, they were talking about Mark Hamrich, I think it was talking about a conduit going across the Merrimack River that they wanted to use. Do we know anything about a conduit? Do you remember them talking about that?
There were a lot of things spoken. I don't specifically remember that, but no, there's been nothing that I am aware of.
Okay. Because that's kind of a question of what conduit is big enough to fit a 36-inch pipeline through it. So I guess that would be something to kind of keep on the shelf and try to figure out what they're talking about.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. No more comments? Okay, recognition, resignations, and retirements, none. Appointments, none. Public hearing, none. Legislative updates from state reps? Don't see any state reps here. Okay, none. Town manager's report. Paul?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Eileen is not with us tonight. She's excused. And Jody is excused also, just for the minutes, to reflect those minutes, if that's okay with you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I did say it earlier.
Did you?
You probably didn't.
Probably didn't hear you.
The one time I remember.
I'm sorry.
But
I'll leave now.
Thank you for covering my back. No, that's fine, making sure it's done. So there is no report that
I have a
Okay.
town manager's report. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
The Merrimack Police Department want to remind everyone about the hands-free law going into effect on July 1st, prohibiting use of electronic mobile devices while driving. Included in this law is that no cell phone use between the ages of 6 to 18 for drivers who are in between the ages of 16 to 18, there is no cell phone use at all. If they get pulled over and the cell phone is on, they'll be in trouble with the police and law. Also, hands-free doesn't mean talking like this with your phone here. It means you're not allowed to touch your phone at all when you're in the car. You have to have a Bluetooth device, just for clarification. Registration for all summer programs, including Connecticut Day Camp, summer tennis, and swimming lessons, are open and ongoing. Visit the Parks and Rec Department website at merrimackparksandrec.org for more details, or call 882-1046. The annual summer concert series will open the season on Wednesday, June 17th, with the band Studio 2, a Beatles tribute band. Concerts are held every Wednesday throughout the summer from 6 to 8 p.m. at Evie Griffin Park. For more information, you can contact the Parks and Rec Department, once again at 882-1046, or visit their website at www.merrimackparksandrec.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
If I
Yes.
may, the hands-free issue does not apply to ham radio operators. By the way, there's a specific exemption. It isn't indicated that way. Amateur radio licensees are called ham radio operators
In the car?
in the car.
Where do we sign?
I never would have thought.
Do you have applications with you?
It'll take you about 12 hours to get a tech license, and then about $400 to buy the unit. So if you want to spend that kind of dough to put it in your car, you can do that.
Cheaper than a cell phone, for God's sakes.
Well, you don't have to pay any airwave rents, that's for sure.
Excellent, thank you, Tom. Consent agenda, none. No old business. Okay, new business. Committee appointments, the town council to consider appointing the following recommended individual, and that would be Christie, Margaritas Bradshaw. Sorry, Christie, I keep on wanting to say Kristen. To the Conservation Commission. And what is the...
Madam Chair, move approval.
Second.
Motion made by Bill Boyd, second by Dan Dwyer. Any discussion?
I think as a council, we've gotten to know Christie over the last couple of months with her involvement with NET, but I can speak personally, having worked with her at Fidelity, and knowing that she and I share a common interest in running, I think she will bring a very unique perspective to the Conservation Commission. But above all, she's somebody who has never run for elected office. And this council, I think, from a policy perspective, we've tried to encourage new people to volunteer and give their time to some of the committees in town. So I'm very grateful that Christie is stepping up to volunteer to participate in the Conservation Commission. So I'm very grateful and thankful for her willingness to volunteer her time.
I would agree with that. Plus, she has experience in Conservation Commission as well, previously, so that's very helpful as well. Any other discussion or comments? None. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? None. Okay, 6-0-0.
No, I'm not voting.
You're not voting.
No.
6-0-1.
It will be 501, Madam Chair.
Boy, you're all awake, aren't you? 5-0.
Donkeys.
Okay, Chrissy, you want to come up and be sworn in? Not sworn in, sworn in. Right up there, and I'll give this to you. He's going to be passing this along. Where is the oath? You have to read it out loud.
I do not.
Yeah, you do. Do you need my glasses?
No, I don't.
Go right ahead.
Whereas there is a vacancy in the office of the Conservation Commission.
Nope.
Just the
You pointed me right there. Right here.
Thank you. I need my glasses on.
I, Christy Marguerite Bradshaw, do solemnly swear and sincerely swear that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all duties incumbent on me as an alternate member of the Conservation Commission, according to the best of my abilities, agreeable to rules and regulations of this Constitution and laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help me God. Thank you.
I'm going to give this to you.
Okay.
Take this. And you get to sign this. That's what that's there. And this is just for the- Just after your signature. That's where it is. Thank you very much again. As we've said before, we're really getting a lot of volunteers for these committees, and it's very helpful, and it's nice to see. Get some fresh blood in. Let me just sign this. Today's the 28th, right? I'll sign that after. Okay. The next on the agenda is review of Merrimack Rocks 2014, submitted by Dave McCrae. Dave?
How you doing, David? Jody's not here tonight.
Thank you, Dave.
I'm getting choked up looking at Dave's picture. Sorry.
That signature thing already go down.
God, I miss him. I miss him.
You don't- Right ahead, Dave.
Thank you very much. I'll go over last year, fairly quick. I just want to mention.
Dave, can you put on the mic?
How quickly we forget, huh?
Yeah. Well, it's been 5 or 6 years. It hasn't been that quick.
Thank you, John.
All right, let's start with last year. We honored Chief Charlie Hall, Nelson Disco, Dave Yakuboff, and Chief Mulligan. Had a great turnout for that. It went very well. We also had our normal musical and fireworks. For the kids, we had Wally, and we had Petting Zoo, Clydesdale. And what I thought was the big, I don't know the word, but it was well attended, was the bungee cord and trampoline. It went great. Again, it appears more and more it's a music event, but it's really a fireworks event. I would say from 4 to 6, we get a fair amount of people, and then around 7 o'clock, as dusk is coming in, is when they begin pouring, and the buses are literally coming down the hill full every time they come. So this year, we're gonna probably focus a little less on some of the other things and try and bring down the price a little. Again, this is basically, we try and put together with the Merrimack Business Association, and the key players is same as usual. And I'm going to miss other people, but mainly the 4 or 5 do it as me and Phil Strait and Dan Dwyer and Mike Malzone and Coach Bob Wallace. If I missed anyone, let me know, Dan. And on that note, the coach has been doing a great job, and he was supposed to be sitting next to me today. Unfortunately, his father died unexpectedly of a heart attack last night, so we wish, obviously, Coach and everyone very well. What I learned Wally has done his thing in Merrimack. Everyone that wants to see Wally has seen him the last 4 or 5 years, and it reached a point I almost felt sorry for him, walking around aimlessly trying to get kids to come up to him. It's like a $700 nut, and it just no longer pays rewards. The other area is the petting zoo costs $800. There's something to it, but again, I just didn't see, as I stood there watching, I just didn't see it a big thing. Again, what it was is the lines were going around forever for the bungee jump and the trampoline, and I would say the free Budweiser Clydesdale got probably more than the petting zoo. So again, and trying to cut down on the pricing somewhat, and realizing it's a fireworks event. I mean, this is what it's becoming, and that's not a bad thing. It's an unbelievable fireworks show that they do. So this year, I think we're probably going to be going with just the Anheuser-Busch Clydesdale and the trampoline situation, and the music nonstop, and the tributes, and the fireworks, and that's what the people want. That's what wows them. Food. The first year was a disaster. They ran out of food 3 times. This year they had plenty of food, but it wasn't mixed up enough. It was just hamburgers and dogs, and if you want pizza or frozen ice or whatever, we didn't have it. This year we will be having pizza, allowing a pizza vendor and fried dough, and certainly not try and be the 4th of July, but probably have a little more of some of the fare that they have there. And it used to be for the food, I made you be a sponsor in order to be there, and this year I think we're going to charge a flat fee for vendors. And I think overall we'll benefit from it. I mean, it was tough to be charging Peter $1,500 and say, oh yeah, we're going to bring other people in too. But this year I'm talking to him point blank and saying, this is how we've evolved, and if you want to be part of it, you're welcome to be part of it, but there'll no longer be exclusivity. We had four honorees last year. It was great that we got 4 in, but it was too much. Constantly, we were just stopping the music and honoring people, and that was great, but it was just too many stops and starts. This year, we're going to be honoring Chief Joe Devine, and we're going to be giving out the Chief Devine will be a Lifetime Achievement Award, and then we'll be giving out the David Yakuboff Helping Hand Award, and we've asked the Yakuboffs to present a name for that. We don't know who that is at this time, but it will just be 2. So at 5:30, when we start the festivities, we'll honor the Yakuboff winner, and then at 7:15 or so, we'll honor Chief Devine, and then we'll do the fireworks and be on our way. I can't thank enough how the town, Adam over at DPW, Chief Doyle, I mean, just all they do, Sharon in the office. I'm going to forget people, Phil Machino. It's, we get plenty of credit and well dones and attaboys, and Paul McCallie, but it is truly a town event also. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do it by any means. Okay, one thing that we learned, the first year went really smooth collecting the money. They pledged the money, and lo and behold, they sent it in. Can't go any smoother than that. So this year I was a little naive. I thought they'd send in the money again. Until I got an email from my friend, kind of informed me that it's now March, and you and Dwight better get prepared to write one hell of a check. We didn't remind the people, they didn't send.
Tell the people who your friend is.
Please tell them who your friend is.
My friend is Paul McCallum.
Okay, good.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
We didn't want to think of some guy with, crooked nose and just.
Oh, no. No. My mind don't work anymore. I look and I see Paul, and I figure I must have said his name. So, yeah, no. Paul called me up and very nicely said, I see on Facebook you're planning number 3. There's a little problem here. You haven't paid for number 2 yet. So on that, it really was a bunch of simple phone calls. I mean, I won't get into names because it wasn't their fault. It was my fault. And they've all sent in the checks, and you've got, like, today another $2,500 check coming in. That's never been the issue with the people. But and then I told Paul that this year I'm going to do invoices because sometimes people need something. Well, I talked to a couple of donors today, and I informed them that, and immediately I could feel very negative stuff because I think what they were telling me is, hey, I got enough bills. I'm willing to pay you. I've paid it just because other people didn't. I don't like being billed for my charity work. So I think what we're going to do instead, and I'll work with Paul on it because we're a team on it, is I think we'll just send thank you letters when they pledge, and then send a thing that gives the address and everything to do, and then and I think in that case they'll do it again. The issue was mine, but it's all coming in. In the end, it'll end up being even. If we're a little off one way or the other, it'll be made up. Like the year we were 1,000 over, but overall it's all pouring in. So I don't think that's the problem. Is I needed to. The first year went so smooth. I just figured everyone would send in, and it didn't. That's the only part of this I don't like is collecting the money. I hate calling and collecting, but I think this will work better. Last year we spent about $16,000 and raised about that on the other end. And this year I'm looking to bring it in around 12 or 13,000. We spent way too much. I think I get into the Facebook advertising. I love seeing the event. And I'm going to do less Facebook advertising, a little less signs, but you can't give away the signs. Signs you got to have, and T-shirts you got to have, because that's how you've given people an incentive to give you $5,000 or $2,500. I mean, they want to see their name somewhere, but they don't need to see it all on Facebook and all that. So the answer is, like I say, I'm bringing it down a little. We're going to have the 2 honorees, and we're going to have some other events. And the economy's stupid. It's it's the fireworks stupid. We need to just make sure we have a great fireworks show, continue doing what we have, and from what I hear, I think people are beginning to accept it as a town event and really enjoy it. So that's what I have.
Dave, what date are you talking
Oh,
about?
the 26th. I'm sorry. This year it would be the 26th. And that's one of the reasons I picked that date is, certainly for this event, but even for the festival in the past, it's been the last Saturday of October, of September. And part of that is I can't get to Clydesdale in October because the first week they're doing pictures. And the other thing is every day you're losing 3.5 minutes of daylight, and it's getting a little colder, and I just find my odds are better. The earlier we have it in the fall, the better off it'll be.
So you're saying September?
September
26th.
26th, so basically be the first Saturday of the fall.
Excellent. Yes, Dan?
Dave, for us, but to refresh our memories, but also for people who might be watching at home, who was our biggest sponsor this year again?
And I'd like to read a couple, Dan, thank you. Again, I'm losing it. Tom Monahan of ESP in New Hampshire and the Monahan Companies for the 3rd year will be donating $5,000 as the platinum sponsor. And the last 2 years, our other big sponsor has been Michael Baum at Veteran Chimney. And some of the silver sponsors have been All Basic Stove Shop, Bella Vance Beverage, Freedom Energy Logistics, the Motta Family and Dunkin' Donut, and Silver Chariot. Bronze has been DW Diner, Apple Blossoms, and the Voodoo Design. Sherwin-Williams, Nashua. And this year I came up with something innovative. I had no idea if it would work or it wouldn't. But I charged someone $500 to have their name on the top of a memory board, and then we had people pay $100 to send in pictures of loved ones that had passed away. And but we had two big boards that were very prevalent, and there were like 15 names on it. So people were kind of able to have tribute to them. So not only the big tribute, they were able to, have their parents or the Simonettis put something on. There was a lot of stuff. So and people, they enjoyed doing it, and they liked having, a way. And we also brought them up at the end of the night, and we gave a rose to, the person that sponsored for their person that had passed before. Then we also had the rock sponsors. So I kind of began, I noticed that the money wasn't coming in as quick as I wanted. We tried to get innovative, and we came up with some stuff that worked pretty well. And again, Coach and his daughter's company, Voodoo Design, they did the T-shirts, and they seem to be a hit also.
And Dave, how much was the fireworks?
The fireworks are $7,500. They are different than the fireworks the town puts on. The town puts on one with their shell casings that fire way up in the air. We don't have that luxury because of where we're located. So we gambled based on what Atlas told us and what some other people in the fire department told us 2 years ago. And they said it's going to be even better because it's on top of people. And we've had nothing but rave reviews. So we're basically firing off nothing different than you could buy for yourself on July 3rd at Atlas. There's just tons and tons and tons of it. And
The fireworks were spectacular.
yeah.
They really were.
Well, they were not to, I don't want to get us in trouble, but a wind came up the wrong way, and we left there by, people had to get out of there by headlights going because you couldn't even see. So I'm sure
The smoke poured in, and you couldn't see 2 feet in front of you, right?
Yeah, you couldn't see out. But they did a great job, and the gentleman that also works at the fire department for Atlas, he takes good care of us.
Excellent. Any questions or comments from the council? Yes, Tom?
You only had smoke. One year, I had the kid mowing the lower softball field drive over a dud 4-inch shell.
Holy cow. I can't even picture that.
He was wide awake after that happened. No.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't a ton.
Fortunately, it was only a 4. But, so, the problem was the guy that was supposed to sweep the field after the main fireworks got angry at his boss for something that happened earlier in the day, and he didn't come in the morning to sweep the field by daylight. So we had to rewrite the contract a little bit.
Yeah. On that, one thing I want to say, too, and again, we pat everyone on the back, but the last 2 years, both Mike Malzone and Dan Dwyer go out there themselves at 7 in the morning and pick up every piece of paper on the ground, everything for 3 hours and have it spotless. So when the town comes in Monday, it's, I'm supposed to each year, and each year I call and just say my legs are too swollen up. Not sure how long I'll be able to get away with that. But again, that's part of the behind-the-scenes stuff that goes to making it work.
And to be fair, I like to say I really thank my community, because my community is pretty neat. It doesn't take us forever.
They're not pigs.
They're not.
Like when you go to some other events, other places, they're really not. We said it the first year.
Yeah.
We're proud of our people.
It is. It's thanks for mentioning that we're cleaning up. But to be honest with you, it's a privilege because we're not there very long. There's very little to pick up. And 2 years in a row, I'm still amazed how clean everybody in town. They whatever they trash, they take it with them, or they're finding the barrels that left there. So we've done a nice job keeping it clean. So
Nice.
yeah. And I just want to say to Dave again, all the work that he has done, because he really is the main driver of our group doing it. But from Adam, who left, and from Highway Department and the fire chief and the police chief, this event can't happen without all the town helping out, and they help out a lot. There's just the fire crews after the performance and everything, and DPW coming back at the end of the event the following day and just picking up all the trash. It's just everyone chips in for this thing, and it's a nice it's nice to see everybody doing it. I can't want to just thank all the departments for the help, because we wouldn't want to do it another year if it was that much of a drudgery of work, and the work seems to get spread around to everybody willing to help. So,
And real quick, Dan, I just want to jump in because it really impressed me was last year. We didn't have a place for Wally to change. So the fire department brought over
that's
their
right.
emergency vehicle. So that Wally, and if other people needed to get out of the sun or whatever, and I think there were a couple of people that got out of it. So, I mean, it's just, and the chief, I mean, it is just amazing how I get welcomed when I show up there with open arms. You know, they want this to work. They want it to be good.
They like watching the fireworks, too.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all. Well, thank you very much, Dave.
Okay, so the plan is to
job.
move forward, and the only thing I can tell you my end is I will be working closer with Mr. McCallie, so there won't be any surprises.
New
as we
best
go.
friends.
And I
Excellent.
plan to try and bring in at about 13. I do, like I say, I'm going to cut
12
off
to
on a little of the
13.
advertising and cut off on a little of the stuff that I don't think people care as much about. Again, it's about the fireworks, stupid.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much, Dave.
Thanks, David.
Thank you, Dave.
Appreciate all the work you do.
Oh, thank you. Now I'm going to sit back and watch my boy who has the real tough job.
One thing I forgot to say, I just want to let everyone know, under new business, item number 6, adoption of New Hampshire Heart Safe Community Initiative, has been tabled because Chief Curry has been busy with a lot of fires going on, so he asked if we could delay this, and I said yes, we could. There's no time issue with it, so that's going to be taken out of the agenda. Okay. Item number 3, 2015 Fall Festival Business Expo, submitted by David Shaw. Come on up. Review of the 2014 event and to ask for council approval to begin planning the 2015 Fall Festival Business Expo.
Thanks, David.
Thank you. We are receiving a copy of the Fall Business Expo Fund accounting as of October 31st, 2014.
And it hasn't changed.
And it has not changed since then. By his friend, Paul McCallie. Go right ahead.
Sure. Councilors, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is David Shaw. I'm a longtime resident of Merrimack. Here today to speak a little bit about last year's Fall Festival and Business Expo and to discuss plans for another event for 2015. First off, I'd like to thank you very much for support of last year's Fall Festival Business Expo. The 2014 festival was the 8th year the town has hosted this particular event. I have volunteered as a planner for this event for the last 2 years, and last year was the first time I planned everything on my own. I feel it was a great learning experience, and with your approval, I look forward to working on future town events. In a moment, I will recap and provide some pros and cons from last year's event. But first, I'd like to thank some of the people who made this festival a success year after year. I'd like to once again thank you, our town councilors, for allowing us to put together a family-friendly event that showcases a wide variety of businesses and services offered in the greater Merrimack area. I'd also like to thank all of last year's participants, exhibitors, volunteers, entertainers, and also the guests who attended. Special thanks to the ladies at Town Hall, Kristen, Becky, Sharon. They really help so much. They contribute quite a bit. Thanks to the town's finance department for their contributions and helping to keep things straight. Big thank you to the police and fire departments, as well as the Department of Public Works, school maintenance, and cafeteria departments. Thanks to Susan Lee and the rest of the EdCAC for all their help. Big thanks to Mr. McRae for calling to check on my progress during the planning phase and also for offering some of his invaluable wisdom and lessons learned from prior years volunteering as the event planner. Thanks to the Merrimack Journal, Merrimack Patch for running stories, helping with advertising. And lastly, a huge thank you to my wife, Jenny Ann, who gave me so much help planning and running last year's event. So it definitely took a lot of people to put it together, but I feel in the end it was worth it. So last year's festival took place on Saturday, September 27th. I really don't think I could have asked for a nicer day, as there was not a cloud in the sky, There's plenty of sunshine, no rain whatsoever, and honestly, some people commented that the weather was a little bit too nice.
Yeah.
But to me, I'd rather, I'll take that over a rainy day anytime. So, all in all, I was pleased. Last year, kind of the big move was we chose to move the event to the Merrimack High School for the first time. I think that was a good move. High school has a much larger parking area, which gave the outdoor vendors more freedom in setting up. Also made it easier for everyone to find places to park. Additional parking spaces allowed me to discontinue use of shuttle services, so that kept the cost down a little bit. There's an ample supply of electricity outside the high school, so it's a little easier to kind of manage the vendor spots outside there. It seems the high school itself is a little easier for people to navigate, as the cafeteria and the gymnasium are pretty much a straight shot from the main entrance. And it seems like it's always been a challenge for people to navigate through JMU's, especially for people that are unfamiliar with that school. Many familiar entertainers returned for the 2014 event. DJ Bernie once again took the stage, live music from Cerruto and Curly Jones Band. The petting zoo returned, and as usual, it was a big hit. Police and fire demos were enjoyed by many. In an effort to keep traffic moving through the school to both rooms, I hired a face painter and provide free face painting for children, and I also hired a caricature artist to provide sketches at it's either a very low or a no cost with like a kind of a suggested tip jar. I placed both of those artists in the gymnasium just kind of as a way to move people from one room to the next, as the second room always seems to be a little bit slower than the first. The gymnasium still did not fill up nearly as much as the cafeteria, but cafeteria is kind of where we have the live performances, so people tend to linger in there, and a little bit more of a crowd in the cafeteria anyway. So, advertising for the event was not as easy as I had expected. I spent a good amount of time and money on signs and flyers that just didn't really work out the way I had planned. I feel the signs were visually appealing. Unfortunately, the soft fall-themed colors used were a little bit difficult to read on the signs, so and some of the posts we used to plant them in the ground were a little flimsy, so that didn't really work out. Rather than placing a large number of small signs along the streets and roadways of town, this year I'd rather place a few larger, clearer, more concise signs, a bit easier to read, just kind of in select places around town, as long as I receive approval to put the signs where I'd like. Then some of the smaller signs I'd like to reuse, maybe change some of the dates and whatnot and the times, and put those in front of local businesses or places that get a lot of foot traffic. That way we can still use them, and people can still see them, but somebody driving or maybe at a stoplight, they can look at a bigger sign and just get the little bit of information they need. As I mentioned before, I was lucky to have some really great help from the Merrimack Patch and also the Journal. It's kind of to my surprise that the Journal posted not just one, but 2 front-page write-ups prior to the event. I spent some money advertising this event online with Facebook, and I think this year I'd actually like to increase the amount I spend on Facebook, maybe like a week or 2 prior to the event, just to really spread the word to a lot of people in a short period of time. One thing I really overlooked last year was the number of food vendors who signed up. Kind of assumed that based on the number of local restaurants that attended the prior year, we'd have no issue with food, but I was wrong. Sal's Pizza once again came. They offered some great food, great beverages, very reasonable prices. But much to my surprise, most of the other restaurants who had participated in 2013 did not return. There were a few pastry and dessert type vendors, and luckily at the last minute I was able to get Texas Roadhouse of Nashua signed up. So they came and did some grilling outside, burgers, hot dogs, chicken. As far as the vendor pricing, last year I kept it the same as previous years. It was $50 for an inside spot, $25 for an outside spot prior to August 1st. Anyone signing up after that deadline, the price increased to $75 inside, $35 outside. Last year I did not offer free spaces in exchange for volunteer services because that just doesn't work out. I did provide free spaces for municipal groups and maybe some select nonprofit organizations, and I figure I can continue to do that because we definitely like to have a nice variety of exhibitors at the event. So one other thing is last year I did not make the offer to give out refunds to the outdoor vendors in the event of bad weather, and I think this year I'll keep that the same. High school tends to be a little more roomy, so if we have around the same number of people sign up, if there's bad weather, we should be able to move them inside, and I don't think it'll be too much of a hassle. So the total attendees was very difficult to keep track of. There were over 100 vendors and entertainers. Guest turnout was not nearly as much as I would have liked. I don't have a good estimate to the total number of attendees, but in my opinion, there really couldn't be enough. So I'm going to work much harder on advertising this year and really continue looking for ways to entice people to attend. Try to find something that makes the event stand out, makes people want to come and check it out, and maybe spend a few bucks and have some fun. So. I passed out a copy of the 2014 Revenue and Expense Report for you all to review. Deposits for vendor spaces totaled just under $4,000. It was $3,915 collected. There was a remaining balance from the prior year of $725. So all in all, we were looking at about $4,600 for 2014. Only spent a little under $3,900, so there was about $775 left over for this year. I'm very confident I can once again put on the event without going budget. I don't want to leave quite as large of a gap. I'd like to narrow that a little bit, but better to have money, left over than have to explain myself, next year. So, for the most part, all the feedback has been very positive. I'm happy to say that many people have already contacted me regarding the plans for a 2015 Expo. In fact, just today before I came up, I had another email from somebody excited to join up. So. I would have liked to have a little bit more of a jump start on this year's planning, but I still feel there's more than enough time to make 2015 event a success. Aside from the weather being too nice, the signs being hard to read, a few complaints about similar vendors working the same event, most people seem to be pleased. I have been told by some people they would prefer to only allow Merrimack-based businesses the opportunity to showcase at this festival, but I really want to keep it open to other local businesses for a variety of reasons. This year, I'm looking to schedule the expo for Saturday, September 19th, which is a few days before the official start of fall, and it will be 1 week before the Merrimack Rocks event. I think it will be a nice kickoff for Merrimack Rocks, by holding both events on separate days, we might find a greater turnout at each. I would like to once again use the high school for the Business Expo and probably look at a time frame of 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. As last year we extended it to 4 p.m., but I found the extra hour really wasn't necessary. Kind of made for a longer day, a little bit more difficult day for some people, and kind of by the end it was just winding down so much people were packing up and leaving before 4 o'clock anyway. So. If the town council will approve, I'd like to move forward with the planning of the 2015 Fall Festival and Business Expo immediately. I'd just like to thank you again for your time, and at this point, spend a few minutes answering any questions you might have for me.
Go right ahead. Anyone have comments, questions? Yes, John?
So help me understand. You traditionally have done this on the exact same day as the Merrimack Rocks program, and now you're talking about moving it a week ahead of time?
Yes.
And the justification, my understanding, was one fed into the next to try and make it an all-day event kind of a thing. Can you help me understand a little bit better what your thinking is there, or repeat what you said at least?
Well, just the, I think kind of the planning for Merrimack Rocks had started, and unfortunately I have some prior commitments that will keep me out of town the weekend of the 26th. Last year, myself, my wife, Susan Lee, and then a couple high school volunteers pretty much staffed the event for the entire day. So if I'm not able to be there, I don't know if it would really happen.
That would be a disaster.
You know what I mean? So I do like the idea of having both events in the same day, but I was kind of trying to look at, maybe a positive of one weekend we have the Business Expo. People kind of check that out, do the morning event with the family, and maybe help spread the word a little bit about the fireworks coming up next week, Merrimack Rocks, and kind of from like turning into fall, and one event right before fall starts and one right after, so it kind of makes up the beginning of fall, I guess. But thought might be a good idea to try try it this way this year, and then if it, doesn't seem to work, we could, make the dates mesh again next year and try to keep it as an all-day event. So.
Go right.
You want to recognize Dave? Or?
Do I want to recognize Dave?
You do recognize him, don't you?
Yes, I do. Yes, Dave.
No, you're gonna have to.
You got to come over
You're
here.
gonna have to
You
come
know the
up.
rules.
Why don't you come on? Turn it on. Turn it on.
I'll make it real quick. When Dave told me he was looking at a different day, A, it was, any port in the storm. He's not going to be here. But B, one thing we did hear, me and Dan both heard from people that didn't make it last year, they said, you know what, we were going to make it, but the kids were just too tuckered out from being at the expo and the festival all day long. So by the time it came time to go there at night, they were already spent. So from a greed standpoint, I think there may be something, I don't know if there is or there ain't, but I think we're going to learn something. But there is something said for having kids going all day long and then trying to keep them up till fireworks. That's just my 2 cents on that. I think it'll be interesting.
As you mentioned with the families, I also thought too for a lot of the participants, the exhibitors and whatnot for the festival, going to set up an event at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning and then go until 4 o'clock breaking down. With the 100+ exhibitors we had, multiple people at each exhibit. A lot of them might have been tuckered out and just kind of like couldn't really go enjoy the night event. A lot of people probably did, but it might have kind of been a turnoff too. So thought maybe it would work. So
Yeah, I don't mean to imply that I'm opposed to the idea. I just wanted to talk about it a little bit more. I think actually that it became a very long day, as Dave just alluded to and other people have said.
yeah.
And is a concern. And so it's probably a good thing to try it out at least 1 year and see what kind of feedback you get.
Yeah, yeah.
But I definitely have come across exactly that situation where you spend the whole day at the expo.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah.
I mean, you're toast, and it's time to go do something different and not necessarily go to another expo kind of a thing or another event. So that's interesting to hear that you're doing that. I look forward to seeing what kind of results you get and encouraging you to go forward with it and make it happen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions? Anybody want to make a motion for approval?
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Tom Mahan, seconded by Bill Boyd. No other conversation? Okay. Yes, Finley. I could tell.
Yeah, no, I'd like information as far as the impact on overtime within the, police and fire services and so on, how it might be impacted with 2 nights instead of 1. And I'm not opposed to it either. I think it's a good idea to try to I'd be curious as to how that will work out.
There isn't a lot of overtime that goes on with the Fall Festival. It's more exhibits and Gunny. Gunny's a big draw still. So Gunny and other taser events and things of that sort during the Fall Festival. The expense at night is having the police there on DW Highway to make sure traffic control that leaving the fireworks, nobody gets run over.
And after I asked the question, though, I realized it's separate times, that there'll be coverage.
Right.
The coverage wouldn't be much difference anyhow,
Right.
so.
Yeah. Whether
Sorry
it be
about
the
that.
same day or 2 different days.
Right, because it's not at the same time, right.
To answer your question,
Thank
no impact.
I appreciate that.
Okay, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, 6-0-0. Very good. Thank you very much.
David,
I
thank you.
appreciate
Thank you
what
very
you
much.
do, and
Thanks.
we'll see you on the 19th.
19th. All right, thank you.
And I did like it at the high school as well. I think it worked out.
Nice. A little harder to see from the main road going by, but it'll advertise a little
Yeah.
better.
Is that your son?
Yes.
Is he being punished tonight?
What happened to his arm?
Thanks for coming out.
Is that the old football injury? Oh, there you go. I like that. That's important.
Yes. Mr. McNally, can you turn the AC up?
Oh, you and his son?
Turn the AC, whatever. Mr. McCallie, I did
Thanks,
mean
guys.
cooler, right?
I think I'm having a hot flash. I feel like my wife is. It didn't get broadcast.
Okay.
Because if it did, you're dead.
Okay, 2014, next agenda item. MIA, excuse me, financial reports. Okay, Town Council to review the Merrimack Youth Association 2014 financial reports. And you'll need to, Paul, I'm not sure if, do you do it first? Why don't you tell us who you are, make sure we have your names correct?
I'm Michelle Byrne. I am the
Press the button, Michelle. Thank you.
I am Michelle Byrne. I am the president of the MYA.
Brian Harris, Vice President, MYA.
Thank you very much. Paul, why don't you start the discussion?
The MYA and the town have a contract, and in that contract, there are certain deadlines related to financial reporting and budgeting. As of June 30, 2014, the council requested the MYA to have an audit performed. And that audit was, deadline to get to the town was October 31st, 2014. As of today, the town has not received the audit for June 30th, 2014.
And this is for the past fiscal
This is
year.
for the previous fiscal year, so they're almost 9 months behind getting that to us. The town has been holding a couple of, we pay the funding that is approved in the budget process by the town council is paid out quarterly to the MYA. We have been holding the last 2 quarters, the October and January quarter payment to the MYA in regards to not having the audit been received per the council discussion with Eileen.
And
I was asked.
There is one due.
There's also one going to be due July 1st, 2015, based on the new 2015-16 budget. Based on the conversation, I was asked to have the MYA here and have a discussion with the town council on the reporting mechanisms and other areas as need be.
Now, you've had some discussions with the auditor.
Yes, I received an email yesterday from the auditor because the town of Merrimack does also not only just give financial support to the MYA, but we do give some in-kind support. The building, the fields, maintaining the fields with lines and cutting and sprinklers and things of that sort. We were asked to break out our expenses so they could break it out in the report. Got the email yesterday from the auditor, so it seems to me like they're trying to wrap things up. I do not know, they asked the MYA for more information or to get some more backup information, and I do not know where that stands with the auditor. I know the auditor wants to get this off their plate before the summer season. They feel that they would like to have a report definitely issued by June 30th because as of July 1st, the new report is due, and there's some issues between auditor who's, and it's really in the CPA realm, about an auditor being paid and when they're being paid versus if they still have an outstanding bill or they, so there are some issues that the auditors want to get cleaned up as soon as possible with the MYA on this process.
Can you answer, I had a personal question. July 1st, the beginning of a new fiscal year.
Correct.
If the money is not expended by then, does it go into the unexpended fund balance?
It can roll into the unexpended fund balance if no report is received by June 30th. Then that's the will of the council.
Gotcha.
So the funding
Okay.
could be lost for the last,
For the three.
for the two payments
Two.
that are due.
Okay. But July,
We have made 2 payments. We made the July payment and the October 1st payment.
okay.
So we didn't pay
Because
the,
we were supposed to get the report.
we didn't pay
in
the
October.
January and March payments. January and April payments, I should say, January and April of this year.
Okay. Why don't we give you an opportunity? Whoops. Yes, Dan, I'm sorry.
But when you say loss, if it goes in the unfund balance account, can't it be written after? Once
Well, that's what the
it's not
question
like
was.
it
would
makes
no
it sound
longer
like
be
it
available.
would no longer be available.
Is that my understanding?
Right. Once the appropriation lapse, without vote of the townspeople to take money out of the unreserved fund balance,
So it's out of our hands.
it's out of your hands actually at that point.
Okay.
Okay, that's why I was curious about.
Well, you could encumber it.
Right.
Yes, and that's, we could encumber, and that's if the will of the council.
Right.
Okay. Is that what you were
That's what I
going
was
to?
gonna say, yeah.
Okay.
So
That's what I was
There's an
questioning.
option we could discuss at a later point.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, Paul usually comes into us
That's
toward
right.
the end of the year and gives us a list of projection and asks our desires about whether or not we want to encumber money for projects or whether we want it to lapse into the unreserved balance.
So that's a deliberate decision we're going to have to make.
We're required to make that. If we make that decision, we're required to make it
Right.
by statute.
Yes.
But if we don't
It would just go in.
encumber it,
Right.
then it will automatically go into the fund
Fall-
It
balance.
automatically
So there has
lapses.
to be a deliberate decision by us
Yes.
to encumber it.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Is that what you were talking about, Finley? Okay. All right. Okay, you've got the floor. Talk to us.
Hi. So, I agree, this was a really tough year for us. I sat here last year with you all and, made some statements about where this was the first time we had gone through it. Now we understand what the process is. I was very optimistic that things were going to be very different this year, the second year of doing it. But we did have, lots of challenges. Every single one of our programs, with the exception of one, has brand-new treasurers and treasurers that have left halfway through the season. So that is a major problem for us because when they do leave, we kind of lose some information or information isn't transitioned as well as it should be when people leave. So we did have a lot of issues that, I think that Brian and I, we've discussed, and I do have some ways that we can correct that going forward. But the audit is done. As of last Friday, I did talk to Monique and Gary at the office, and we have decided that the audit's complete to the best that we can do. We can't keep it open anymore, waiting for a couple of stragglers to come in. It's just, it's done. What they told me today was that they are going to, the audit opinion for the MYA for fiscal year 14 will be issued as a disclaimer of opinion.
Of what?
Say that again.
It's going to be issued as a disclaimer of opinion, which is essentially saying that they have no opinion.
Paul?
A disclaimer, the town gets what they call a clean opinion that they have audited and they were able to verify all the records. What a disclaimer of opinion does is it basically takes the auditor, and the auditor says that they cannot make an opinion based on the information they received. And usually with this disclaimer of opinion, there's a couple of sentences describing why they are disclaiming the opinion. It's not the greatest, opinion you can get. It's not life-ending. It would be more life-ending if the organization was looking to bond or had lines of credit or was trying to sell stock and things of that sort. Investors will look at that and say, hey, basically with this disclaimer, there's going to be some work that the MYA is going to have to do to get rid of this disclaimer and some more procedures that are going to be put into place by the MYA or would have to be put into place by the MYA so that this does not happen again. It's not uncommon. Basically, you can have an unqualified opinion, an adverse opinion, or a disclaimered opinion, which is basically the auditor saying, we do not take an opinion because we could not, complete our audit.
Stan?
Paul, is it true that most of the time when that happens, it's due to a lack of information given?
So the couple of comments that they did say, that they did, and they're gonna write up a whole report. So
Yeah.
this is in a response to your question, Dan.
Right.
Is that there was some support and documentation for receipts and disbursements that was not able to be given from the programs to the auditors. So somebody was missing a receipt. I don't know which programs that was or what the amount was. I don't have that information because they don't have the formal report. But it will be disclosed in the formal report when we get that. And then there was also some explanations for the increases and decreases of balances on certain revenue and expense accounts. And I do have some detail on that. Again, it's all in the report, but one of our questions that we had as an organization was the auditors, which get the information from our accountants, was showing balances that on certain accounts that we did not report. So we couldn't get an answer as to why that was a different balance. And I know you guys are gonna not like this one, but when I did ask the accountant why that's a different, I can't get an answer because the person that handled our file is no longer with the company. So when she entered the data, it's a terrible answer, but I don't know how she entered the data. I don't know why she did it a certain way. And she was the only one that handled our file, and now she's no longer with the company.
So it's an accountant issue as well as the
Yeah.
changing of treasurers and all that.
Yes.
Which accountant?
Jeff Dittman. So so just so I can be very clear on this too, we are not using Jeff Dittman's office anymore. We have moved away from them. And that was one of the things that we did decide to fix, and after talking a lot. So what's going to wind up happening is I have resigned, or I've stepped down from the president position at the MYA. Somebody else has taken over, not Brian. So in June, there will be a new president of the MYA. In the meantime, I am going to assume a role as a consultant in a finance position to them, because my background is in finance and accounting. So what I'm going to do is kind of get all of our books back into order, and I've already started that process. And I've gotten all of our files from that office, from our accountant's office, and I'm putting it into a file that we'll be able to use at the MYA, and we'll have historical data. I'll be able to look at and analyze the data that comes from our accountant's office, and maybe I can try to understand how those numbers came to be. And then once that's all up and running, my hope is that the MYA will find somebody to take my position, because I've been with the MYA for 10 years and I want to leave them in good standings, but and this is how I plan on doing it. But I do hope that somebody else will take over once we are up and running. But that office we have moved away from them at this point. So everything for this fiscal year that we're in, that office has not done anything for us.
Yes, Dan?
I just want to say thank you for that explanation, but I also wanted to reiterate, as someone, as many of us know how difficult it is to get volunteers, and you have a very large organization. So we understand, if I speak for all of us, we're not trying to hold back any money. Mm-hmm. We would want to give this organization the money that you deserve. And it's hard when you have a team of volunteers and maybe only 50% of them come through. So we realize you're in a pretty difficult situation. I'm glad to hear you're going to move forward with that accounting and get it under order. But I think we can understand what it's like when you have so many volunteers with so many different responsibilities. So maybe streamlining that responsibility is a key factor to going forward. So thank you.
Yes, Finley?
Michelle, in your email to Paul, you had spoke of a woman named Lori.
Yes.
And she's a CPA, I guess.
Yes.
And what role is she going to have?
So she is actually not with us either. We did bring her on as somebody that was going to do what I'm doing now for the MYA, but she. Yeah, I mean, there was some personal issues that she needed to take care of, and she couldn't devote the time that she needed to the MYA.
Sure. All right. I hate doing books. I do them once a year. It takes me about a week to get ready for my account, and it's the biggest nightmare of my life. So I don't know, is there any way that something can be set up, I guess I'll ask both, for consistency? You know, the same boiler kind of form you fill out, what you bring in for the day, what you spend on goods you sell, or whatever you're doing. So each program has the same paperwork so that everybody follows the same
Isn't that what an
path.
accountant's supposed to do?
So
Wasn't that part of the initial
the-
issue?
Well,
There was
we
supposed
do-
to be a procedural thing established?
That's correct.
Right, we do have a standardized report that each program has to submit every month, and it's our treasurer's report. And then that gets consolidated into one, and it all gets sent over to the accountant, or now it's gonna be me, and I'll wind up doing the roll-up for all of the MYA. But we all use the same chart of accounts, and we all do have one form that we use. Now, the sub-accounts might be different, but from a consolidated financial statement, we only use those the parent accounts, so.
I don't even know if I want to ask it. I'm not going to ask it, never mind.
Paul wants to
I'm
say
good.
something.
Thank you.
It sounds to me like Michelle's going back to what we discussed over a year and a half ago, and having the treasurer on the executive board actually be the funnel. What was happening, what it sounded like, is that every treasurer was just sending their stuff to the accountant and not being funneled through the treasurer on the executive board. With this person, Michelle right now, and whoever takes over later, they'll be able to stop and say, hey, wait a second, you gave me your report. You're saying you spent $5,000. You only got $1,000 worth of backup. Where's the rest of your invoices? Before it gets to be 18 months, 9 months after the audit, and they're like, oh, I don't know, it was in this folder, and I moved offices, or I'm no longer the treasurer, or I got a new treasurer in, and this was the previous treasurer. So it sounds like what Michelle's describing is that they're working towards what we worked and talked about over a year ago now. And I think that I assume that when you say you took over the accounting role, you stepped back into the treasurer's position?
Well,
Hybrid?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
So I'm not, as of June, I'm not an official board member anymore, so I won't have, like, voting rights, I won't be able to sign checks for the account, or anything like that. It is an interim role until they can find somebody else to take over.
If I may, Michelle has volunteered to stick with us until we get through this difficult time, until we find the right person to fill that treasurer's position. And not only are we just looking for someone to fill it, but we're looking for someone that's actually qualified to do it and not just a volunteer. So, I mean, we're grateful for Michelle sticking around and not just leaving us in time of need.
Bill, did you have a question?
A question for Paul. Can we circle back to the disclaimer of opinion, which is really no opinion? Refresh my recollection, back when this council was talking about a variety of different issues involving the MYA, I don't mean to put words in my colleague's mouth, but I thought the goal, or one of the goals of the audit would be to provide a foundation for the MYA with this particular audit, so that there'd be a baseline for them to work with, so that they can move forward and begin having specific history in place in terms of their revenue reporting, not just to the people that are in the MYA, but also to us. Does not having an opinion still going to be able to provide the MYA with the foundation, so that, I mean, in other words, from this point forward, all they can do is go up that, as you said, the disclaimer of opinion to a qualified opinion, you said there are specific steps. I mean, there's going to be a progress forward, so that there is some, what we get from their auditors, I mean, there's going to be something foundational component to it that they'll be able to use.
Right. Basically, the opinion is a piece of paper that sits on top of all the financial information. They're still going to have all their financial information, similar to what we did with the Fall Business Expo. This is basically a really, really, really minuscule financial report.
Right.
They'll still get something similar to that from the auditor that shows in 2013-14, the soccer program took in X amount of dollars for fundraising, and they spent X amount of dollars for fundraising. They'll still have those reports. The one thing that they won't have is that saying it's clean. There will be some questions, it sounds like, because the accountant at the time took some information and put it into a bucket, for lack of a better term. Just dumped it into a bucket, and the auditor's question, well, why is it in this bucket? How come without knowing it, how come your donation account increased by 150% and your sponsorship decreased by 25%? And the answer was, we don't know. We got to go back and look at the information. And with everybody leaving and things, that kind of got bloodied or blurred, not bloody, but blurred, so to speak. And what will happen is going forward, when they look at those reports, there'll be an asterisk on the 13, 14 year saying, all right, these numbers are there. This is what the numbers say. But going forward, they might not be, like the donations might not be 150% more. They might still be the same amount. And sponsorship might come back up, and there might be a big jump in sponsorship if those were the two accounts that were
But any gaps or any questions, and as you move forward, as you read the report, you should begin to be able to see a certain trend of stability
right
over the couple of years that
well,
you're not going to find in this particular report.
Well, you're going to get the numbers that you can build off of,
right,
and move forward. Just like I said, there's like a little asterisk there when you're looking back from next year's audit, for instance, when they look back and compare actuals to actuals from 14-15 to actuals 13-14, they got to look at it kind of with a grain of salt, so to speak.
No, I agree. Yeah.
13-14 is not
Yeah,
accurate. You don't know if it's accurate.
They don't know if it's accurate. They know the numbers are there, so they kind of look at it with a grain of salt. I'm pretty sure that when they get their disclaimer of opinion in their report, they will know precisely which accounts the accountant was looking at that they didn't get their questions for. And they'll have it. And when they look at those accounts, it will be, okay, well, last year it said this year it said that. This year it's more apt to be this number than what it was last year.
Right, but the questions that'll be reflected on this year's report, when they do it again the following year, hopefully the questions will be answered, and therefore...
Right, well, that's what Michelle is doing for them right now,
Okay.
is gathering all their information and making sure they have all their backup and things of that sort. And it will be, I take it, located at the MYA and not at the auditor's place of business, which is also a major concern sometimes.
Right, and so, again, Brian and I did discuss that, and that is something that we are going to, we haven't implemented that yet, Paul, but we do plan on having a centralized location that, each program does have filing cabinets within the MYA. All of your documentation goes in there so that if I or the next financial controller that comes in, treasurer, has a question, we can go back and reference that information. But yes, the documents currently are kept with the treasurers, and we need to get that into the MYA and filed there and kept there.
I'd just like to make a comment myself. Personally, I want to be able to support MYA as much as possible. I don't think there's, from my point of view, I appreciate the volunteerism that's in the MYA. At the same time, and that's not going to change, at the same time, there's a seriousness to this, that what precipitated us having to do this, it still has to be, procedures were not done. Things that everybody agreed to wasn't going to be done. So we're in this position now saying, okay, I do understand that, but the reality is we still haven't solved the problem that initially started this whole bandwagon. I mean, part of me is that there has to be some way. What bothers probably the most is that the procedure was not established, whether people follow it or not. I mean, there has to be some sort of timeliness, whatever happens to you, in terms of you have to be able to demonstrate to us that the steps that need to be taken, I don't want to wait for the very end and have the audit. I want to be able to have something demonstrated to us that, okay, this is what you had to do first, okay, that's done. Now this has to be done second, done. There has to be some sort of, from my opinion, some sort of intermittent reporting to let us know you're on the right track. Not that you're not there yet, but here it is, how long? And we've waited, and all those steps weren't done for perhaps legitimate reasons. But at the same time, had we perhaps said, okay, we want to be able to have this step done, document or report to us, we would have caught it a lot sooner. I don't know. Okay, so fundamentally, I want to know, I want to be able to work. But at the same, and support. But at the same time, there has to be some more tangible reports, more, I don't want to say strict, because that's, do you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
Paul?
I mean, I see what you're getting at. I do, and I understand. You know, more. You want to see more of a status, like throughout the year, rather
Right.
than wait till the end of the year to say, you know, hey, what's going on? So, you know, I think that we could discuss something that we can do.
What do you suggest,
The
Paul?
word is transparency, Madam
We,
Chair.
Yeah,
with-
that's
with-
what would make it.
Yeah.
right.
With the Adult Community Center, my department gets their quarterly financial report, and we're able to look at that quarterly financial report and go through it and look at their numbers and see what's going on at theirs. And we were able to catch a couple of things with it, saying, hey, your number doesn't jive with what was you budgeting or what you had in previous years, and get an explanation. And I think that's what you're looking for, to start maybe getting some quarterly financial reports
Interim.
from the executive committee forward, because are you using QuickBooks, I take it?
I am using QuickBooks,
Right.
yes.
So it's easy enough
Right.
to pop out a quarterly financial report there. But there's also some other things that, you know, smaller baby steps that need to be done, and looking at the internal controls
That's
and things of that
that's what I'm
sort,
talking
that,
about.
you know, I'm sure we can work through with the MYA and get some deliverables for the council that, you know, it sounds to me that you have all treasurers in your programs now, for the most part?
No, that's incorrect.
Okay, so you don't have treasurers in all your programs?
Correct.
All right. All right.
Just problem number one.
But, you know, that could be, try to get them, and I know you want somebody who is going to not just balance a checkbook, but actually understand and be able to do what you're asking them to do. And I understand this is, you know, this is a 100% volunteer organization, and, you know, they have other jobs and other responsibilities, families and things of that sort, and usually it's the kid that's playing in the sport that the person wants to be involved in.
Right now, we have 2 treasurers that are doing in the programs that are doing an outstanding job, paperwork on time, everything. They've actually volunteered to step up and train
That's great.
other treasurers that are maybe they don't know all the ins and outs of being a treasurer or all the reports that we are looking for to send to Jeff Dittman or the auditor. And we haven't, I would like to, going down the road, is to put things in place as far as having directors and treasurers meeting at least twice a year. So it doesn't come to the end of the year where we owe all this paperwork and we're dumbfounded and don't know where it all went. So I'm hoping we can all agree as a board and directors to come up with a system in place, twice a year meet, and let's, all right, where are we at? September 1st. Where are we at? Because in 6 months, we owe our paperwork to the town.
I would recommend that's the part that you need to do quarterly.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, Brian's right. I mean, so, you know, we're going to try to do that, or not try, we're going to implement that. And, you know, the other thing is that, you know, we do have our monthly board meetings where all the directors do come, and sometimes they don't always attend, and we just need to mandate it and hold them accountable that either they show up or they send somebody that can speak to their program, because during these meetings is when we discuss their paperwork. So it's not going to be acceptable anymore for a program not to have representation. And so, you know, we're going to, you know, implement that as well, and then also come up with, you know, some ways to, you know, make sure that this happens, that it's not, you know, whether it's, I mean, I don't know, like if they don't show up, this is going to happen. There's a consequence for it not happening. But we do need to figure out what that is and define those. Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, and that's what we need them to do, you know, I mean, it's a monthly meeting, and we discuss, you know, all things MYA, and we, you know, talk about financials, and we, you know, ask about stuff for the programs, and if you're not there,
I mean,
we're in the dark, so.
keep in mind, there are directors on the board that are running a program right now, and they're missing 5 people on their board, and that person is running
The whole
Running
show.
the whole
and
thing.
standing in for every one of those positions that we're meeting. So
Right.
for him to do all that, or her, I'm not going to mention names, him or her to do all that, and then
Have
go
to do
home
it.
and then sit in front of a computer and, no, he's not a treasurer, he's not a CPA, and for him to put all that on paper is asking a lot for a volunteer. I mean,
Yes.
It's too bad there wasn't a person who would be willing to, who's knowledgeable, who would be able to be treasurer for several programs. And they just work with the individual and just keeps the books. I mean, but that would take time.
well, that's what I believe Michelle is kind of volunteering to do, and
Yeah, but if you had several people who did that. Go ahead, Dan.
I privately said this, so now I'll say it publicly so it could be in the minutes, but I suggest that you guys have a stipend or a part-time treasurer, that you have one guy and you pay him, because the job is just too overwhelming. It's an important job, it's a big job, and right now in your bylaws, you can't do that, but as a board, you could change your laws, because I think that's what you need. It's just an overwhelming job, and to ask somebody to do it as a volunteer, I feel it's just too much to ask, and that's why it's failing.
Right, well, so if we call it a treasurer position, we do have to change the bylaws, but we're actually, we're using the term as a financial controller, and that person, if, we're using them as we would Jeff Dittman, so we would 1099 them at the end of the year, and then we wouldn't have to change the bylaws. And the executive board could still have a treasurer that does the executive, just their, checkbook and writes their checks and can give a status update. But if we take on a financial controller, we would not have to change the bylaws, and we could pay them and 1099 them at the end of the year. Yeah.
Okay,
Well-
Jill Mahan,
Well,
then
you were
Bill?
paying Dittman.
Right, now we're not, so
Right.
it's.
So you have a line item,
Right.
so to speak.
Correct.
Okay, and so it would be,
Right,
the
so,
mechanics of it, to me, aren't that important. That, us sitting here trying to advise you how to do this is sometimes counterproductive, okay? Because you're doing the work, you're doing the job, and you have a better sense of what's going to work. And you're talking about, well, we can't really call them that, but we can call them something. Who cares what you call them? Okay, if it complies with your bylaws, and it's something that you think that you need to do, you could call them whatever you wanted. And say, here's your duties, okay? And for that, we're going to provide you with
And you've already got a
something,
light on it.
with something like that. So it's not any, I mean,
Good idea.
we've already established job description and responsibilities. We have that on paper.
It's just finding the person now.
Huh? We're s-
it's finding the person, but we also didn't we wanted to finish the audit before we brought somebody in, or finish this year's audit, before we sent them in and say, hey, go take care of this, right? And then it was also, getting all of our information from our old accountant and into our books and, into a usable format so that we can train somebody to go ahead and do it. So that is the plan, is to have somebody. And, I'm hoping, I think that we put a timeline of August to have somebody on board in the August timeframe. And then hopefully I can phase out and that person can phase in.
Bill, did you have?
It was just more going back to conversation when you first came on, Michelle, about a year ago, is one of the things I had taken a look at. Was I actually read the bylaws for all of the MYA programs, and there was no continuity of the individual bylaws funneling up to the mothership, for the lack of a better term. And I think and I'm enthralled with the idea that you're proposing. I think this needs to be a unique opportunity to synergize the individuals' organizations with the mothership. God bless you. So I again, not to be redundant, but to circle back to what I said a year ago, I think you have a lot. There's a lot going on right now, and I don't want you to bite off more than you can chew, but I also think there's a unique opportunity to really look at how the from a governing perspective, how the MYA is governing and coming up with the bylaws that make sense not just for the parent organization, but for all how it feeds down to the individual organizations for baseball, wrestling, football, that kind of thing. Thank you.
Okay, yes, Dan.
I had to guess your bylaws probably haven't been changed in decades, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Well,
it's-
there was a couple of new ones, if I remember correctly, I think.
I mean, it's probably a 5 times or 6 times as a lot bigger than you ever were, and yet you're just operating under the old rules. So yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Tom? Keeney?
Paul, do you know, or can you remind us what the auditor's report said last year? Did they issue an opinion last year?
They issued an opinion. It was, it wasn't clean, but it was an unqualified opinion, but I believe there was a paragraph talking about the timeliness, and they did have a management report with some of the things. I know if they work with their auditor right now, I know he has a lot of ideas on how to streamline the process. I don't know if you had this conversation. I've been with not so much Gary, but Bob Vashon, the owner. He has some ideas on how to do this, and he's done this for other organizations, other nonprofits, where he sat on their boards and things of that sort. So he has a lot of great ideas, and he's seen your data now for 2 years, and he's listened to his staff of where the problems were, and he might be able to help direct you in that process. The other thing is I would reach out to them because they have a wide array and a lot of context of people who are been in the business and they're looking just to do it, part-time, or, stuff that you're looking to do that actually have been in the business, or that they have worked on a nonprofit with them 5 years ago, and they know they'll come in for X amount of time, get your book straight, put all your procedures in place, train your people, and then you guys take it over and run with it. So those are great resources to use, Bob Vashon, and actually, I don't know too much about Gary, but if he's a lead partner there, he's got some knowledge of how to do things, and he does have Bob behind it. And of course, if you need my staff, I have Tom Boland, who's also a CPA and has done the auditing aspects of things. That if you need help or you need us to come to a meeting to discuss what the functions really are and why it's important to get this stuff up and where you need to get it, we'll be more than happy to come and help you guys out at a meeting and talk to your directors and your treasurers if you want that. All you got to do is just pick up the phone or just have Mr. Green, you there, stop by my house and knock on my door and drag me.
Thank you very much.
I think I want it to happen, but I also want to emphasize it's got to happen.
Yes, I understand.
And whatever we can do to support that. Yes, Tom?
So my concern is, I'm not an accountant by any stretch of the imagination, and so I'm way out of my league here. But several years ago, we asked for you guys to provide, we asked for the MYA to provide, not you guys, to provide an audit. That finally did come about. The audit, we didn't expect it to be crystal clean, but we expected to get some information and understandings. Last year, you, Michelle, were here telling us a fairly nice song and dance about how we were going to make things better this year and all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, we're here many months late, maybe finally getting the audit completed and getting a report. I don't see an improvement, unfortunately, in where we're at, and I'm not sure that I'm convinced that I understand that we've actually moved forward in this whole thing. And so I'm concerned that the organization in general hasn't been able to pick up on its responsibility and provide the necessary financial, judicial coverage that they're supposed to have.
Yeah, I mean, I was very optimistic last year when I sat here, and I won't disagree with that. And I really did think that we had, a better way of doing things, and that just wasn't the case. I mean, and it was a lot bigger job than I thought it was, right? And I thought that we could just kind of take some recommendations from Paul about, the internal control processes, put them together, make a packet, hand them out to the programs and say, hey guys, this is what we're going to do. And, they were, hopefully they were going to be, and I thought that they'd be followed, and, we're up to date, and we would stay on top of things, and then life happens. Right, and it's not like a 9-to-5 job where you go in every single day and you talk to that person and go, hey, what's going on, right? I mean, it's, you know, we're catching somebody on the weekend, or we're catching them, you know, at 8 o'clock at night when they're putting the kids to bed and going, hey, you know, we haven't seen anything, you know, can you give me an update? And it is hard, and I do have challenges, and we all have challenges, and it is a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be. And it still is, and I'm not gonna lie, I mean, it's just a big job. And, you know, I think that I'm hoping that this year we're in a better situation. We have more help on our board. You know, Brian wasn't with us last year. He's with us this year. He has just been instrumental on doing so many things and just pushing getting a lot of stuff done. And just a huge asset to us on the board. And, you know, we have, you know, Rick on the board now, and he's gonna help, and we have another Brian who is another new board member. So we have, you know, we have fresh blood that is very enthusiastic and willing to get their, you know, hands dirty and do a lot of things. So I think that's gonna. We're already seeing a difference because of the people that we've brought onto the board, and I think that we're gonna continue to see that.
To answer your question, it's going to improve because it has to. I mean, bottom line, you guys want the
Definitely
audit?
has to, there's no doubt about that.
Right. It has to improve. And if it doesn't, shame on us and shame on the executive board for not following up and getting it done. And that's where we're at right now. So I don't know if that answered your question, but we are trying to get things in place to make sure these things happen in a timely manner when they're supposed to happen.
Tom Mahan, then Bill.
Yeah, you got, I think you have 1 year left on this agreement. Okay, so that's our opportunity as the council to decide, you know, how we're gonna proceed after that. And in what fashion, and, you know, what's gonna happen. You know, it's very difficult to try, and, you know, you're not the only organization that is losing membership and losing commitment from the people you need to run the organization. You look at any organization in this town, the Rotary, the Lions, the Exchange Club, all those other groups, and you find the same issues. Okay? It's just that people, for whatever reason, don't have the time commitment that they need to have to do some of this stuff. And it makes this a very difficult thing to deal with. It makes it more difficult from our perspective because we're supplying you with additional money to support your programming. Okay, and we feel that we need to be accountable to the people that elect us here about how that money is handled, because every other program that we give money to, they provide us with the financial accounting that we can take a look at and feel reasonably certain that the money's being well spent. It's not without I'm saying that it's not. Okay, and that there's no commitment out there. But it's just that it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to manage in this day and age.
Bill?
I think that with the MYA no longer having a relationship with Mr. Dittman really speaks very loudly to me. And I hope
he shuts up.
I'm sorry?
I think right now you should
Be
end your
careful.
comments about.
I'm just going to say I'm going to leave it at that. Just going to leave it at that. I would hope moving forward that when you elect your new president and when you bring on a comptroller, that you would make an appointment with the council to introduce and begin to establish a process of who is coming into your organization, what roles they're going to be on, so that at least from where I sit, I have a good understanding as to who's running the executive board, who the comptroller, having the comptroller come in and talk, and what's your plan of attack going to be. I'm not a product of Merrimack. My wife is. My sister-in-law is. Finley, as I've said before, Finley's wife coached my wife in soccer, and I think all of us really appreciate the amount of time that the volunteers put into the MYA to provide an outlet for the youth of this community. And I certainly don't want to deny providing monies that help kids be able to play a sport or do cheering in this community. But like Councilor Mahon, I do feel that we have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers of this community, and it's a job that I hold very seriously. So I'm looking forward that moving forward with the MYA, that you'll keep the lines of communication open and talk to us. You know, Paul's opened up his door in extending his expertise along with Tom Boland's expertise. So I think there's really a good opportunity. It's only going to cost you an hour of your time, 2 hours of your time. It's not going to cost any funds to sit down to bounce stuff off of Paul or Tom. And I would hope that you would take the opportunity to use that expertise as the organization moves forward. But thank you for coming here tonight. I do appreciate it.
Okay, so we have to have a decision here.
Well,
we have to make a decision about the payment that we have not submitted.
that needs to be an agenda item, does it not?
Yes.
It does.
It does, but it sounds like their audit will be here within a week or two, so we can get this on the next meeting in June to discuss.
Because it's money.
Right.
Right.
To discuss it and, go from the will of the council.
Okay.
Did you, I know last meeting you guys were voting, did you officially vote in a new president, or are you trying to woo the gentleman in, or lady in?
He's not from FIFA, is he?
The name is Tom Thornton.
Okay.
He has been elected as president.
Okay.
We had
Good choice.
We voted last.
Great choice.
Has he accepted?
Okay. We've worked with Tom.
We know Tom.
Parks and Rec.
When he was with Parks
Tom.
and Rec.
Yeah.
So.
How much money have we withheld?
$36,000. Their funding is 72. We withheld half of it, 36,000.
Okay, so we'll put this on the agenda for the June meeting?
Once we get the audit, it'll be on the next meeting.
Okay, so get her done. Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, it's done. We're just waiting for reports. So they're not waiting for us anymore.
Excellent.
Thank you
very
guys.
much.
Thank you very
Michelle
much.
Bryan, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Appreciate it.
Can we take a 5-minute break, please?
Sure.
Recess? Report from Paul McCully,
I can make this real simple
or not.
or very long, depending on what you would like. No, honestly, the revenues, to cut to the chase, we have sufficient appropriations to finish out the year. All our expenses that we track are reasonable compared to what has been happening, such as overtime, health insurance, natural gas, and electricity, things of that sort. And then our revenues, our big revenue is our car registration. I'm hoping that when we close the books tomorrow, we'll hit our revenue numbers for the year. So June will be all surplus revenue with that again. We are up. We are significant. When you'll see the slide, we are significantly up on our over $100,000 over what we were at the same time last year. So
You just said that our next quarter is surplus, if the numbers come in like you're expecting.
I mean, May. If the numbers come in at the end of May, we'll already hit our revenue.
So it'll be all June.
So all of June will be surplus. First one, health insurance, cost comparison.
Gentlemen.
Our health insurance cost comparison, our health insurance is based on the same numbers of March 31st, 2014 to 15, is down about $18,000. We have some openings in positions, and if those positions were filled, we'd be right around the $2.3 million. But due to the openings, we have some savings in health insurance because of the number of openings that we have had throughout the year.
How many openings do we have right now currently, do you know?
You can see the calculator in his head.
I know of two in the police department. One is starting in the beginning of June. One will start in the next fiscal year. For the two vacancies they have, we have some fire. The fire staff is fully staffed now. They have a gentleman who is on military active duty, but they have backfilled that position, so they are now fully staffed. I think in the last couple of months, they became fully staffed. We have an opening down at the Highway Garage Operations Manager. Adam left, so we'll start seeing some of that, so there's an opening there. We have a couple of part-time secretaries that have left, so we have two part-time secretaries that we'll be filling in the next couple of weeks, one at Parks and Rec and one in Community Development. Plus, we're also looking for positions for the next year's budget. We have two more police officers that were approved in the budget, so they'll be down 3 positions as of July 1st. We'll have a new part-time person in the tax collector's office who we're trying to hire so that with everything that goes through, they can start the beginning of July. We have a position in the fire department and code enforcement as a part-time secretary.
Technology.
And technology has been hired. We do have the part-time in technology now. We have some savings from him. And then one more is the solid waste, the attendant, for lack of a better word. We're still trying to work on a job title on that. But so right now we have 3 full-time positions that are open, to answer your question in a roundabout way.
I appreciate it, Paul. Thank you.
New Hampshire retirement is up for police, down for fire, and up for what they call Group 1, which is everybody but police and fire. The reason why police is a little bit higher is that some of their details, they're running their detail numbers, overall their budget, they're running up to their budget number, so it's a little bit more than this time last year with their details. That number needs to be adjusted, and that will be adjusted in the fourth quarters to make the numbers level. Fire is down because of the vacancies that they did have throughout the second and third quarter of the fiscal year. And then Group 1 is because of we were running some vacancies last year in 2013-14 for part of the year, and now we're basically up to almost full staff, and it's only about a $15,000 difference there, and we're well within the budget that is for the 14-15 year. Overtime comparison, general government is about flatline. Fire is up a little, and that's due to 2 reasons. Their vacancies, and the last, I want to say, 4 to 5 weeks has just been,
wicked.
Yes, very, very stressful for them. They've been running nonstop over the last 4 or 5 weeks, at least 1 or 2 times a week.
I don't remember it ever being this way, ever.
It's still continuing.
Yeah. Police overtime's up. Once again, that is due to them having anywhere from 3 to 4 vacancies at one time. They're starting to hire the people back, so that number should flatten out a little bit. Communications in their dispatch center, that's up a little bit. In the budget, in the fiscal budget, there are 2 part-time dispatchers that are supposed to work between 20 and 25 hours a week. Those 2 positions are vacant, Bill. So they're covering those shifts they have to cover those shifts with overtime and call, and it's mostly falling towards the overtime. Highway, even though we had such a snowy winter, highway overtime is down because of the magnitudes of the storms, when the storms hit. There was a lot of weekday storms. So the timing of the storms, so we were paying them 8 hours on the books.
Anyway.
Because they were on the books, so they were plowing on regular time and then into overtime, whereas I think last year there were a lot of weekend storms. And if there's a weekend storm, it's 100% overtime, whereas this one, at least we're getting some benefit of them working regular. Overtime for solid waste is up a little bit. That is due to the number of trips that were taken out of the transfer station up to
to Concord for our trash and recycling and things of that sort, mostly trash. We don't truck our recycling, a company trucks our recycling for us, so that's just for our trucking of our trash to Concord. And then
Suggesting we're taking in more trash, or is our volume going up or something?
our volume is going up. We're tracking real close to what's in the budget. We have more debris, construction debris, so those are a couple of trips, different trips, and things of that sort. So our volume of total tonnage is going up. Well,
Construction debris, do we charge for that, or?
we charge for it if it's over a ton. Over 1,000 pounds, not over a ton, over 1,000 pounds. We charge for it, so
That's if it's a homeowner. If it's a business, they get paid, don't they get charged from penny one?
penny one for businesses,
Yeah.
but
So if it's a contractor.
it's a contractor. But if you're a homeowner, it's over
homeowner,
1,000
then
pounds. So it's pretty easy to break up your truckloads if you're a homeowner versus a business. So, and then other departments, that would include like building and grounds and community development and tax collector. The big thing there is the building and grounds overtime for the snow versus last year and things of that sort, so. But all in all, our overtime budgets are well within the appropriation on a whole. Kilowatt for electricity, we have a very favorable rate that we signed contract for compared to PSNH. And as you can tell, most of our kilowatt usage for the big fire, highway, library, police, solid waste, streetlights is declining from this time last year to March 31st, 2015 versus March 31st, 2014. Traffic lights are staying constant. We still have the same number of traffic lights. We haven't added any traffic lights, so that's staying pretty constant. Building and grounds is up a little bit, and Parks and Rec is up. Electricity usage is up a little bit, and the building and grounds is this building and the other town hall building, and that we attribute to well, you'll see the next slide during the cold winter, running the fans and having extra heating devices within the town, which use a lot of electricity to get the heat and keep the heat for employees at a certain degree, and a lot more of those units.
You're
the
talking
wall
about
units.
space heaters?
Yeah, space heaters.
Thank you.
Space heaters.
As opposed to the open windows, the sky gets heaters.
Yeah, and
Yes.
we're looking at things in the building. Some of the windows and things of that sort are inefficient, and on a good cold windy day, it's you could feel it. There's some serious drafts, and we're working on fixing those problems.
Do we spend $800,000 a year on streetlights?
No,
Or am I misreading?
that chart there is
That's kilowatt hours.
kilowatts. Yeah, that's kilowatts.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the kilowatts that we
You were
use.
going to have them shut off all the lights, weren't you?
Yeah,
It would
we do
cost
have.
you- It would cost you more. It would cost you more to shut off the lights than
Oh,
to
I
leave
know.
them on.
We talked about that.
Just ask the city of
Yeah.
Manchester.
Thank you, Tom.
So the kilowatt, those are the kilowatts. And the kilowatts drive what we pay.
Yeah.
Like I said, we do have a favorable contract. I work with an energy consultant, and we're on the phone once a month, back and forth. Okay, how's natural gas look? How's electric look? And what can we do better? What's the new fad? What's going on? Can we do this? Can we do that? So he's looking at these numbers also, and when there's a big spike, I'll send it to him and say, hey, what's going on? And he'll do the research, and he'll come back and say, well, this, he could pinpoint to the meter that this was the meter that caused you the problem, and we can figure it out from there. And we've done that with the street lights and the traffic lights at some point, that we have gone back and said, hey, what's going on with this stuff? The next one is the natural gas, and as you'll see, every department for natural gas was up.
It was a tough winter.
It was December was warm, January was getting cold, February was snow and coldy, snow snowy and cold. March was no picnic, and
We all
even part
remember.
of even part of April, the heat was still on, and you know,
And now
part
we
of
get the
May.
AC on.
Yeah, and part of May the heat was on. I think as of 2 weeks ago, the heat was still on in May, and now all of a sudden today it was 90 degrees and outside.
Run my
So
heat in
it's-
the morning, the AC in the afternoon.
yeah.
It's amazing.
So, but once again, we do have a favorable because of the amount of therms that we use, and the reason why we're so favorable is because our wastewater treatment plant. And the town, the general fund, actually piggybacks on them because they do use it, so we get a very favorable rate for both our electricity and our therms because of the amount that they use in their composting and running their pumps and things of that sort down there at the
So
wastewater.
it puts us into
It puts us
larger
into a
group.
Yeah, larger group, and actually, my consultant told me is that he is surprised with some of the bidders that we get, and he figures it's because of the amount of going to one area or wastewater treatment plant. Because other towns, he's bid other towns, and these companies won't even bid. But when we sent that out for Merrimack, they're like vultures with
we'll
them.
do
They
it.
want the information right away so they can bid it. So.
Good.
So, do you include the wastewater treatment plant on any of these charts, or?
Not for therms or kilowatts. This is only just for general fund. I can start including them, but if I did that, it would be like, you wouldn't be able to get the real
Well, yeah,
peaks and valleys
The
there.
we
logarithmic
can
scale.
also use different scales.
Yeah, right. And then revenues, like I said, everybody knows interest hasn't really rebounded like the way they're saying it's gonna rebound. Now there's talk that it might not rebound in September of 15. They're hoping to raise it a little bit, but they don't know now. Building permits are a little bit less than what it was over this time last year. However, talking to the building department, they got very busy in the last couple of months. Once April hit, the building permits and the traffic has picked up for April and May. So hopefully by the end of May, when I look at the revenue, we should be right on track again for what we're looking at. And then, like I said, auto registrations are sitting about $3.2 million. Which is a little more than $3.2 million. Like I said, hopefully at the end of this month, we will be, if we won't be at our revenue budget, we'll be very close to go surpass it in June, so we should have a surplus of revenue there. What I didn't show on this chart is that we got a big check from our health insurance provider for a rebate on our premiums again in 14-15, as well as what they're projecting in 15-16. So we have some surplus in revenues. Our revenues at the time I thought would be pretty close to break even. I think now we'll definitely be into a surplus with the numbers. And like I said, our appropriations, we're good with our appropriations. We should have a surplus on our appropriation side too. And that's including all those things that you wanted to do during the budget season, like the microwave for dispatch and the guns and the rifles, and including all that stuff in my projections, and we should still be to the good in appropriations.
Nice.
That's all I had with this. Is there anything else that you'd like to see or
No, I'm okay. Is everyone else?
any other tracking that you might want to look into? Or
I think I'm all set. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, the adoption of the New Hampshire Heart Safe Community Initiative has been tabled. We will reschedule that for June. Item number 7, the town council to consider amendments to the town manager's current contract. You've all received a copy of the revised proposed contract. It should be noted that there is no budgetary changes. There is no money difference from the previous contract to this. Still budgeted for the same amount of money. And what is the pleasure of?
Move approval as presented.
Second.
Motion by Bill Boyd, seconded by Tom Mahan. Any discussion?
That's with the appropriate dates and everything filled in.
We are,
correct?
thank you, it's going to be effective July 1st, right? just because of the fiscal.
Yep.
Okay, all those,
You can do it either way. You could do it for June if you so choose. We paid for May.
I was told June, July 1st.
July 1st, either one.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All saying aye, 6, 0, 0. I will send this around to be signed. Okay. Approving the minutes from May 14th, 2015.
Madam Chair, move approval of the Thursday, May 28, 2015 Town Council meeting minutes as presented.
Motion
Which one?
May 14th?
I'm sorry, May 14th, I apologize.
Thank you.
Thank you for the correction. As presented, and also that Vice Chairman Mahon's statement attribution be included as an addendum to the minutes that were prepared for our review.
Okay, so why don't we get a second on that, and then Tom, you can read.
Second.
Second by Tom Mahon, and Tom wants an addendum added to these minutes.
Right, I'm requesting this memorandum be placed as an addendum to our meeting minutes of May 14 and November 15, 2014. During new business number 3, selective cutting at our May 14 meeting, and that's pages 23 of 28. The speaker quoted from our minutes of November 6, 2014, a lengthy statement transcribed is attributed to me. After the meeting, I researched the minutes and found that the minutes were accurately quoted. I then went back to the video of the meeting. After reviewing the complete segment, I did not make the statements attributed to me after the first sentence in the November 15, 2014 minutes. And rather than lengthen this memo by doing a verbatim transcript, please refer to the November 15, 2014 meeting video from minute 52 minutes 40 seconds into the meeting. The remainder of the statement on page 23 of the May 14, 2015 minutes originally attributed to me were actually made by Paul McCallie as he reported his findings to the council. The attribution error was not detected when we approved the November 15, 2014 minutes. You may also wish to refresh your memory regarding the full discussion the council had on the Atherton Road property at our September 25, 2014 meeting, beginning at about minute 19:22 and concluding at about minute 43:02. I would thank you for your attention in this matter. Respectfully submitted.
Okay, any future discussion or other changes? Okay, all
Oh,
those.
wait, I'm sorry. Wasn't sure what you were talking about.
I'm talking about approving the minutes of May 14th
Yep.
with the addendum.
So I accept the addendum. Back on page 5 of 28.
Yep.
Just one simple thing on line 37. It's quoted as Ms. Thomas saying, to have a power plant, you need a grade source of electricity. And I'm guessing that's a good source of electricity is what she said, not a grade source.
Okay.
Unless I
Or
misunderstood.
great, GREAT.
Well,
Either way, I'm okay.
either way is fine with me,
Okay.
but
Okay. Yeah.
that was the only thing that I happened to notice. Figured I'd bring it up. Thanks.
Anyone else notice anything else? Okay, all those in favor of the correction and the added, the addendum, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? No. 6, 0, 0. Okay. Comments from the press. Hold on. Comments from the public. Comments from the council. Bill?
If just very quickly, Finley, Nancy, and Tom Tom Mahon and myself happened to go to the World War II dedication over at Veterans Memorial Park, the Eagle Scout project, which this council approved by Hayden Faust. And I just wanted to comment on how well attended it was, how it was short, sweet, and to the point, and I think everybody in attendance really had a good time. We had Lester Langley, a veteran of World War II. I guess he was in the Battle of the Bulge, to my understanding, which was a pretty pivotal battle. back in that day. So it was actually inspiring to have, you know, a member of America's Greatest Generation standing there before us to participate in the ceremony. So it was a great day. The weather cooperated. It was well attended, along with some of the other Memorial Day festivities. So it was a great day for the community. So I was happy to be a passive bystander. So that's all I have to say. So thank you very much.
I'll just follow up on Hayden Faust's memorial. The picture of the invitation, it's amazing, the replication. He did a great job, and it was gorgeous work. And Bill didn't mention that Mr. Langley was actually the gentleman who built the first one. I believe they said he was in high school at the time.
Yeah.
When he did the first one that was at the north end of the library, I believe, and when they made that parking lot, it was moved with the intention of putting it back up, and it disappeared somewhere. So this, I mean, the duplication is pretty amazing.
And he was there to see the replica.
Followed through, yeah. So
Yeah.
anyhow, yeah, he did a great job.
It was really cool.
Another great project by an
Beautiful.
Eagle Scout.
And he was so well spoken.
Yes, oh
The
yeah.
scout, he did. Excellent. The other thing I want to be, well, I'll wait. Tom, I'll be the last one. Tom Kenny.
Briefly, I wanted to just let you guys know, we did meet with the Technology Committee last Tuesday, and unfortunately, I went for 2.5 hours.
And you thought it was going to be easier
I thought
than
it
the
was gonna be
planning
easier.
board.
Haven't met for a while?
They haven't met since January. And so what we did was, because there were at least 2 of us that were brand new, the person at Adnas that we appointed last meeting, I believe it was, and myself, there were 4 of us in attendance, along with Chuck Miller, and we went through all the issues that they have been discussing over the years to try and bring us up to speed and help us to understand where things were, and got Chuck to fill us in and help us to understand where the pieces, parts are. And we're still, running a company, it's always a trade-off in cost. Running a town makes it even harder because you don't have unlimited funds to throw at technology. We could easily spend hundreds of thousands of dollars working on our security, on our backup systems, on our general infrastructure systems and things of that nature. And so I think the town's doing an amazing job with what they have, and it's going to be interesting as we go through the year to continue to discuss with the Technology Committee where we might be able to find things to help. What I want to do is reach out and ask that if you have things you want the Technology Committee to do or to focus on or to look at, to please make sure that we're aware of that, because right now we're kind of going over these ongoing issues of security in the buildings or backups and things of that nature, but don't have a real driving force for the Technology Committee right now that I can see. So if you have thoughts or ideas, please let us, the Technology Committee, know. And we did elect a new chairman. Dustin has been on the committee for about a year, and he's stepped up and agreed to be the chairman.
Quick promotion.
So, and Ed Suter's still the secretary. So that's what we did.
Dan?
Just a quick thank you to the Highway Department and Transfer Station boys for putting up those signs. They look good. They're not very wordy, but so I'm not going to criticize. I was looking for maybe some more, glass, plastic bottles, cardboard and stuff, giving some people ideas of what they might have thrown away. But the fact is, they got the signs up and they're on the fence, and hopefully they'll make people think a little bit to think of all the things you can be recycling to get our recyclables up. But thanks again for the team for getting that job done.
Anything, Tess? Nothing. Okay, the only thing I want to talk about very quickly is on May 21st, Paul McCauley and I became active participants in the actor-shooter table exercise, where we were... Huh? Active shooter?
I thought you said actor.
Oh, well, it was an actor too. Active shooter. And actually, it was a simulation of an active shooter where you had, and it was all different tables, and you had the school department at one table, the administration, you had the command, another table where the fire chief and the police chief were, and that's where Paul and I were, because that's where we would go in reality, or the town manager. And then they had different tables for dispatch and then fire rescue. And it was interesting, as the simulation went on, they had literally radios, and there was discussions going through all that. I'm going, how do we keep this straight? But the reality is we don't. And I think it was a really good learning experience in a couple of ways. One, I was so impressed. I mean, we're sitting at the command table, and Chief Curry has 3 radios in front of him, and he's talking to all 3, and each one reflects a table. And the coordination, and him and Chief Doyle were talking, and it was really nice to see them coordinating. There wasn't competition. They were helping each other and communicating, and so, and as Paul and I were there, and Paul, you were terrific, because you'd say, don't you think we should consider, yeah, that's a good idea, Paul. For example, we had nothing to do with the command, obviously the fire and the police, they were in control of everything, but we had to become aware of what was going on. And then we had to consider, what are the support things that have nothing to do with what they're going on? For example, there was an active shooter at the high school. And Paul came out and said, well, don't you think we should tell the library about it? Because the schools were in lockdown. Do you think we should call the courthouse, let them know? And, oh yeah, we should. So we simulated calling them. There was this whole scenario that we had to do. And then, okay, we have to make sure that we contact all the rest of the counselors to make sure what's going on. It came into, finally, there's going to be a unification, and it had to do with active shooters and IEDs, and we're hearing all this going on. Can't do anything, can't do anything. School is calling. I mean, there's multiple things going on at once, but we will be able to isolate out, okay, we can't do anything about this. We've done it now. Okay, a reunification center, they were going to do it. Okay, let's go to the Shaw's parking lot for the parents to come, so when the lockdown was stopped, they'd get on the bus and go, which of course would change in a minute. Okay, we needed a town councilor there. Let's call up a town councilor and have them go there. They were going to have a press section. There should be a town councilor there. Now, they were not, the councilor would not be in charge. It would be a representative of the town. So I think the bottom line is it highlighted things that we need to do to develop a procedure, like a checklist. Remember to think of this, peripheral places that should be called. This is a town councilor should be here, a town councilor should be there. Just a checkoff list that if anything like that happens, that we think about it. In the middle of a crisis, you don't think about those things. So, Paul, did you want to add anything?
It was amazing, and there was some stuff that came up, and even we had a gentleman who basically was our guide, so to speak.
Homeland Security.
Homeland Security.
Every table had a Homeland Security.
And he looked at us and said, why are you doing that? Why are you locking down the court? Why are you locking down the library? And we said, well, because they're here, and we don't want people, if they're at town hall, running to the scene because they're within a mile, and we were blocking traffic and calling the state police and things of that
and
sort.
Helicopter. Oh,
and
yeah,
helicopter, and stuff. But what was wild is that as it started, we learned a lot by doing it, that if this was a real situation, it'd be like, where's this person? Why isn't this person here? Why isn't this person here? We need this person. But we learned a lot about the procedures, about, well, if they're locked down at the school, how is the principal going to get out to talk to anybody to say, this is the school layout and this is where we're at?
Every single table had something they learned that they have to get better.
Yeah, and we're going to have the drill. The drill is scheduled for June after school, June 26th after school. And at the drill, they're going to actually play out what we talked at the tabletop and work on some of the things. And it was wild. At one point, you could see that they were pointing to one another at the tables and like, change your radio station to our channel. We need to talk to you. Where it would have been like they would be picking up their cell phone saying, hey, we got this problem, but they were going to, and we found some radio problems that we had.
And the Chief Curry had talked about the NIMS.
Yeah, the NIMS. Yeah.
Standards, and trying to get, because that has to do with, if I understand it correctly, you have a building, the NIMS has a procedure where as you walk in, if I have it correctly, that's A, and then you do clockwise B, the back would be C and D, versus the police would say the southwest corner. You have to get in the same terminology. So that was sort of discussed. But again, would you recognize the need for that? And even I understand it now. Your entrance is A.
And the one thing there was and they said you got to use the terminology because these are the terminology, and you got to use this standard terminology. Even though there's a bomb near the girls' locker room, you can't say bomb. You have to say an IED because whoever's coming in from another department might not know what bomb means. Even though bomb is pretty self-explanatory.
It's cake, isn't it?
Yeah.
My grandson's the bomb.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, it was wild. And when they do the drill itself, I'm sure that invitations will be sent out to see. It was funny. Nancy and I were talking, and we just basically said, if this was a real situation, our backs would be up against the wall, listening, and you tell us what you want to do, and you guys have
We're
at it.
out of the way.
Out of the way because they
And calling up everybody. Nobody show up. We'll tell you when to show up.
Yeah, stuff like that because, I mean,
And even if would shut down town hall, there should be a designated person who's the communicator. For example, if Eileen and I, for example, were there, or whoever the chair is, should be the one to go, or availability, then it would be Paula, somebody, that's their number. That's the person who we would communicate with.
Right.
But again, you think of it then, but we should have a procedure. Check off.
Right, because what was said is that the calls will start flooding. They'll flood dispatch. They'll basically crash dispatch. When they're not getting anybody in dispatch, they're going to dial 2331, and that's when we would talk. Okay, well, we need to have our person answer the phone. Okay, we'll transfer you, and just start transferring people. Like, business is shut down. This is our message. This is what's saying. More details to follow. Please do this, or
press will be calling.
The press will be called in. Their staging is at Xylas, and the school. If you have a child, please go towards the old Shaw's building right now. And then that was the other thing we talked about. They talked about, well, you just can't have these people come off a bus because the kids will run to the parent. You need a inside facility because there's going to be certain parents that you're going to want to pull and say, hey, you need to go to the hospital, or your son is not on this wave, and then their emotions and things of that sort, and you don't want that out in an open parking lot where a news chopper can fly over and pick that one person out of the crowd. So we learned a lot of neat stuff.
I mean, literally, you call the FAA to make sure the airspace is closed down. And I went, why are they doing that?
Which is a major feat here in
because they don't want the press
Manchester
to be able to take a picture, and if someone's inside the building, they'll know what the police are doing, and the fire. Well, of course, that makes perfect sense.
Or a parent to find out through the news that kid is lying on the ground because and bleeding, and why isn't police doing something?
That wasn't. They automatically did that.
Right.
The two chiefs that was part of their. So I think it was very encouraging. To me, I was really impressed. But I also learned a great deal that what we have to do from our side.
There is a lot, and the staging and things of that sort. Okay, you need to go. Here's the call. Stay at home. Stay by your phone. We'll give you updates. We'll text you, whatever. Okay, now
go to.
This is your responsibility. This is your responsibility, and down the chain,
Right.
It's up to the council, but does the vice chair go to the meeting area and the chair stays in the command center, or does a counselor go to it all depends.
Right.
Because roads are going to be shut down, and it's going to be hard for, say, somebody on the south end to get to the north end.
How are you going to, with all the roads shut down, how is the counselor going to get you?
Right.
Just those kind of thoughts that we would not have thought of, or we may have, but not as clearly, why the need was justified. So it was very well done, but also a lot of work to be done from our side.
If you're interested, you can take the NIMS course online.
Yes. Oh, online?
Yes.
Online. It's an option I give my students.
And there are different levels, too,
Yes. It's an option I give my students when I have them do a couple of projects. When I do the administering local government one, I give them the option of go online to FEMA and and take one of those courses, because I get a lot of public safety people in the program, and so for them it's a piece of cake. You know, they can,
Because that's just part of their
yeah, they do it all
language
the
anyway.
time, and they can pick it up. But you know, when you know, like you said, when you go into a building, they lay the building out a certain way. When
And
they
even
set
the
up
floors or
Right.
sectors
Yep.
or whatever.
Yep, when they set up the
Command?
command area, or when they where they were, you said Zyla's was
did learn.
a specific
It was
location.
going to be for the press release.
Yeah, and then they'll have a staging area for your equipment and stuff.
Correct.
And another place, and all kinds of stuff. And so, and how the whole process is dynamic
Absolutely.
in terms of, as people show up, they get moved into different positions.
Well, that's what happened with fire. They set up command on, they were setting up command close to the high school, and next thing you know, the fire chief said, no, pull back command to the Legion with the police
'Cause it
and
was still
everybody
an
else
active
coming in,
shooter.
so that they could dispatch you to where you needed to go and things, so.
And
Yeah, it
then
was
they had-
very
And they
dynamic.
had rescue, and they put it back in the superintendents, so the police could protect them, receive any casualties, but still, because it was still actively going on.
Right.
So that it was protected. Yeah, it was very complex, but amazingly, in the complexity and the chaos, it was organized. It was very impressive.
It was the most intense
Yes.
hour and a half exercise, that you'll have. And I sat for the CPA exam, and it was nothing like this. And that was 2 hours, 2.5 hours of intensity. This was the
People
most
took it
intense.
serious.
And they took it seriously, and they were going back and forth and doing their job and talking and things of that sort, so. But it was an intense exercise for the hour and a half that,
Yeah.
just going back and forth.
And then after it, everyone analyzed it, what went well, what do we need to work on, and every table was, we need to do this better. Or I didn't, you were on the wrong frequency. Oh, yeah, we got to figure out how we can fix
Or
that.
we got to look at this, or we got to look at that, we have this, oh, that's great technology, but how can we get to it?
Right, exactly. From the
Stuff like
school,
that.
That's right.
Do we really
The
want it
school
from
has,
there?
has a lot of technology
Yeah.
that is helpful, and, yeah.
So.
Okay, so that's my report, and I usually have nothing to say at the end. Except,
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
exactly that. Motion made by Tom Mahon, seconded by Bill Boyd. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good night.